Ladies and gentlemen, listen up because this one is important. Have you ever been in a relationship where everything seemed fine, only for her to say something that immediately put you on edge? There are certain things that can come out of her mouth that should make you stand up, pack your bags, and leave without looking back. You may think it's just a passing comment, or you might brush it off as an argument, but let me tell you, these words can reveal far more about the relationship than you think. And if you ignore them, you might just be setting yourself up for a lifetime of frustration, hurt, and regret. So stay with me, because today we're talking about the 6 things she could say that should have you walking out the door immediately. Trust me, you'll want to hear these, because these are the lines that should never be ignored in a relationship. The first thing that should make you seriously reconsider your relationship and potentially walk away is if she says, "I don't need you." Now, let's be clear. It's one thing for a partner to express independence and self-sufficiency, but it's another thing entirely when these words come out in a context that makes you feel unappreciated or disposable. In a healthy relationship, there's an understanding that both partners rely on each other for emotional support, companionship, and love. When someone says, "I don't need you," it shows a complete lack of respect for what you bring to the table. It suggests that they see themselves as entirely self-sufficient, and they might not be valuing the emotional bond and connection you share. What's even more concerning is the tone behind these words. If it's said in the heat of an argument, it's a sign of something much deeper at play, emotional disconnection. When a person says, "I don't need you," they're not only rejecting you in that moment, but they're also rejecting the foundation of mutual support that relationships are built upon. It sends a message that they don't value your presence, your care, or your commitment, and that kind of disrespect can't be ignored. We all want to feel needed in a relationship, and the key word here is partnership. You're in this together, so when she makes it clear that she's fine without you, it's a sign of emotional detachment. Over time, this can lead to a lack of affection, communication, and empathy. It also creates a dangerous dynamic where one person feels like they're walking on eggshells, constantly wondering if they're valued or if they're just an accessory in the relationship. A relationship should never make you feel like you're not necessary, because when you feel unnecessary, you're likely to stop giving your best. It creates an imbalance where one person is emotionally investing and the other person is coasting. If you are feeling dismissed, unwanted, or invisible, then the come in a matter of time before you begin questioning your own worth in the relationship. That's why the moment she says, "I don't need you," should be a major red flag. You should be able to look at each other and recognize that you add value to each other's lives. Moreover, when someone uses these words, they are subtly indicating that they've lost respect for you. Respect is the foundation of any strong relationship. Without it, all the love in the world will mean very little. The person you're with should respect you, your time, and your emotional needs. If she doesn't, or worse, if she says outright that she doesn't need you, then it's time to reconsider what's really happening in the relationship. It's not healthy to feel like you're in a one-sided dynamic where one partner is emotionally checked out. Now, this doesn't mean that you should expect your partner to rely on you for everything, or that they should be emotionally dependent on you. Independence is important in any relationship, but when someone goes as far as to say that they don't need you, It's often a sign that they've either emotionally detached themselves from you or they've taken your presence for granted. In the long run, this lack of appreciation is toxic and can have serious consequences for your well-being and your happiness. When you hear these words, it's crucial to take a step back and evaluate whether this relationship is really serving you. Are you truly appreciated, or are you just another person filling space? Are you being valued for who you are, or are you just an afterthought? If you're questioning your worth in the relationship, then it's time to have a serious conversation. And if things don't improve, walking away might be the only option to protect your emotional health. You don't deserve to feel like you're constantly fighting for affection or respect. A healthy relationship should make you feel loved, valued, and needed. So, if she says, "I don't need you," don't ignore it. Don't convince yourself that it's just a bad moment or a temporary frustration. It's more than that. It's a sign that the emotional foundation of your relationship is shaky, and it may not be something you can fix on your own. Know your worth, and never settle for being with someone who doesn't see the value you bring to their life. You deserve more. Another clear indicator that it may be time to reconsider your relationship is when she says, "I don't trust you." Trust is the cornerstone of any strong relationship, and without it, the entire structure is at risk of falling apart. Trust is not something that can be easily repaired once it's broken. And if someone you care about openly admits that they don't trust you, it signals a deep rift that can't be ignored. Trust is built over time, and it is an essential component that binds two people together. It's not just about believing that your partner is telling the truth. It's about feeling secure in their actions, words, and intentions. When trust is established, you can feel safe being vulnerable, sharing your thoughts and feelings, and knowing that you'll receive the same in return. But if she expresses a lack of trust, it creates an environment where both parties are on edge, second guessing every word and action. This is not only emotionally exhausting, but also mentally draining. When someone tells you that they don't trust you, it's a sign that there's a serious breakdown in communication. Trust is built on honesty and consistency. If trust is absent, it's often due to actions, behaviors, or past incidents that have led to doubt. And no relationship can survive long term when doubt becomes the primary emotion between the two partners. Whether it's past betrayal, secrecy, or simply a failure to live up to promises, the result is the same, a lack of trust. Once trust is damaged, it's not something that can be repaired overnight, and it requires both parties to acknowledge the problem and work together to fix it. But sometimes, when trust is repeatedly broken or one person continues to undermine it, it becomes clear that rebuilding it is no longer an option. If you're in a relationship where trust has been damaged and it's not being addressed, it's time to think about whether this is a relationship worth fighting for. Trust isn't just a word. It's the foundation on which emotional connection, intimacy, and respect are built. Without it, you'll find yourself constantly questioning your partner's motives, wondering if they're being honest, and doubting the security of the relationship. And this constant state of uncertainty is not only unhealthy for both partners, but also unsustainable in the long term. It's also crucial to remember that trust goes both ways. If she tells you that she doesn't trust you, it's important to reflect on why that is the case. Were there actions or behaviors that led to this? Did you act in ways that made her feel unsafe or unimportant? While no one is perfect and everyone makes mistakes, It's important to recognize the impact that broken trust can have on your partner's emotional well-being. If you've been honest, transparent, and have worked to build trust, but she continues to believe that she can't trust you, then it's time to ask yourself if this relationship is really serving both of you. Trust is something that takes time to build, but can be destroyed in an instant. If trust has been repeatedly violated, then whether through infidelity, lies, or emotional manipulation, it can be incredibly difficult to rebuild. And while some relationships can work through trust issues, both partners must be committed to putting in the effort and making the necessary changes to rebuild the emotional connection. But if one person isn't willing to make that effort or continues to act in ways that undermine trust, then it's likely that the relationship is beyond saving. In some cases, the lack of trust can come from insecurities or past experiences that have nothing to do with you. Perhaps she's been hurt before, and now she's carrying the weight of those past wounds into the present. While this can be understandable, it's still important to communicate openly about these feelings and create an environment where trust can slowly be restored. However, if she is unwilling to work on these issues or consistently pushes you away, when you try to build trust, you have to ask yourself if this is something you can continue investing in. Ultimately, a relationship cannot thrive without trust. If your partner tells you that they don't trust you, it's not a small issue. It's a sign that the foundation of the relationship is unstable, and unless both parties are willing to address the issue and take steps to rebuild trust, the relationship is likely to continue deteriorating. If trust is not being given, or if you're constantly being accused or doubted, it will wear on your mental and emotional well-being. You deserve a relationship where trust is mutual, where both partners feel secure and valued, and where there is room to grow together without constant fear of betrayal. If trust has been lost and isn't being worked on, it may be time to walk away before things get even worse. When she says, "You don't care about me," it's an incredibly powerful and dangerous statement to hear in any relationship. It's a clear indication that she feels neglected, unimportant, and emotionally disconnected from you. This phrase is more than just an accusation. It's a cry for help, signaling that the emotional needs of your partner are not being met. Whether it's due to neglect, lack of attention, or feeling emotionally abandoned, this statement should never be ignored. One of the most important components of any healthy relationship is mutual care and consideration. If your partner feels that you don't care about them, it means they are not receiving the emotional validation and support they need to feel loved and valued. When this happens, it creates a gap between the two of you that can only widen with time. Relationships thrive when both partners feel cared for, respected, and emotionally secure in the other's love and commitment. But when someone feels like they're not being cared for, it can lead to feelings of resentment, frustration, and emotional withdrawal. It's essential to understand that love is not just about grand gestures or words. It's about showing care through actions, consistency, and attention to your partner's emotional needs. If you're not prioritizing their emotional well-being, it sends a message that you're either too busy, distracted, or simply don't value them enough to make them a priority in your life. This can be especially damaging in a long-term relationship where the stakes are higher and trust is built over time. If your partner feels emotionally neglected, they will start questioning the strength of your commitment, and this insecurity can lead to major issues down the line. This phrase, "You don't care about me," can be a wake-up call to assess how you've been showing up in the relationship. Are you listening to her when she speaks? Are you actively engaged in her needs and emotions? Are you present and responsive when she reaches out for affection, support, or companionship? If the answer is no, then it's time to reflect on why this is happening and what changes need to be made. Sometimes we get caught up in the hustle and bustle of life, work, and personal responsibilities, which can inadvertently lead to neglecting our partner's emotional needs. It's easy to become complacent and assume that love will sustain itself without effort. But love requires constant nurturing, attention, and action. Relationships are not passive. They require both parties to be engaged and invested. If your partner is telling you that you don't care about them, it means they've stopped feeling the emotional connection that is vital for a thriving partnership. At this point, it's crucial to listen closely and take responsibility for the way your actions or inactions have impacted your partner. This is not the time to become defensive or dismissive of their feelings. When someone feels unloved, they're not just looking for an apology. They want a change in behavior that shows genuine care and effort. Your partner is expressing their pain and their need for more attention, and it's important to recognize this as an opportunity to step up and show that you are committed to making the relationship work. If your partner has reached the point where they're questioning your care for them, it's a sign that something needs to change. This doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship is doomed, but it does mean that you need to take a hard look at your actions and figure out how to do better. A relationship is a two-way street, and both individuals need to feel valued, heard, and supported. If you've been neglecting her, now is the time to make a conscious decision to show up for her emotionally. This could mean carving out more quality time together, making an effort to communicate more openly, or being more attentive to her needs and desires. However, if you find that you're continuously making the same mistakes and not addressing her emotional needs, the situation may become irreparable. It's not enough to just say, "I care about you," without showing it through consistent actions. Words can only go so far. Your actions are what truly speak volumes. If you continue to disregard her feelings, then you will inevitably push her away, and no relationship can thrive under those circumstances. This statement, "You don't care about me," can also indicate a deeper issue in the relationship. Perhaps she feels unappreciated, unseen, or undervalued. These are all signs of emotional disconnection, and if left unchecked, they can lead to the breakdown of the relationship. It's crucial to take this seriously and not brush it off as just another argument. If you truly care about your partner and the future of the relationship, then it's time to reflect, reassess your priorities, and take deliberate action to rebuild the emotional bond that may have been lost. In the end, relationships are built on the foundation of mutual care, respect, and love. If your partner feels that you don't care about them, it's a clear sign that you need to take immediate action to address the problem. You owe it to yourself and your partner to be the kind of partner who actively invests in the relationship, who listens, who nurtures, and who shows care consistently. If you ignore this sign, the damage to your relationship will only grow. If you choose to fight for the connection, however, you'll show your partner that you care in ways that will heal wounds and bring you closer together. When she says, "I feel like you're not there for me," it's an important and often painful sign that something is deeply missing in the relationship. It's a call for emotional presence, connection, and support. Relationships are built on the foundation of mutual care and understanding, and if your partner feels like you're not there for her, it's likely because you're either physically absent or emotionally unavailable. This feeling can manifest in many ways. It might mean that you're too focused on work, your personal issues, or other distractions, leaving her feeling alone and unsupported. Or it could be that you're there physically but not emotionally, leaving her to carry the weight of emotional labor herself. Whatever the reason, hearing this phrase should immediately signal that it's time for reflection and action. Being emotionally present means being attuned to your partner's needs, whether they are verbal or nonverbal. It involves listening with empathy, offering support when it's needed, and being available not just in moments of joy, but more importantly, during times of difficulty. Relationships are not just about the good times, but also about being there for each other when things get tough. If your partner feels that you're absent when she needs you the most, it signifies a gap in emotional intimacy. This is a critical part of your bond, and when it's missing, the relationship can begin to feel like a burden rather than a source of support. The reality is, life can be demanding, and at times, you may find yourself preoccupied with work, your ambitions, or even personal struggles. However, it's important to understand that emotional neglect, whether intentional or not, can have serious consequences. Then the partner might not need constant attention, but they do need to feel like you are fully present when it matters. When a person feels like they're facing the world alone, they start to question the strength and depth of their connection with their partner. It's easy to overlook the quiet need for emotional support, but in a relationship, it's the little things. Checking in, being attentive, offering a listening ear that build the foundation of trust and closeness. If these things are missing, it can create a sense of isolation and lead to growing resentment. The phrase, "I feel like you're not there for me," can often arise from situations where one partner feels like they're left to shoulder their burdens alone. Perhaps you're dealing with your own stress, challenges, or distractions, but this doesn't mean that your partner's emotional needs should be neglected. Being emotionally available is not a one-time act, but a continuous effort. It requires being attuned to her feelings, offering a comforting presence, and being willing to step in during tough moments without being asked. If she feels like she's fighting her battles alone, it's a sign that something needs to change. Sometimes, this feeling of emotional absence can also stem from a lack of communication. Relationships thrive on open, honest, and vulnerable communication. If you've stopped talking about your emotions or avoided deep conversations, then your partner might feel left in the dark about where you stand emotionally. This sense of isolation is incredibly damaging because it makes it seem like there is no one there to rely on when the going gets tough. Emotional distance can be just as hurtful, if not more so, than physical absence. The key is not just being there physically, but being present in the moment, showing that you care, and offering support in tangible, meaningful ways. This feeling of being unsupported can also highlight the importance of shared responsibility in the relationship. Both partners need to contribute equally to the emotional workload of the relationship. This doesn't mean that everything has to be perfectly balanced at all times, but there needs to be an understanding that both parties are in it together. If one person feels like they are carrying all the emotional weight, they may start to feel resentment or frustration, which can lead to emotional withdrawal. The idea of being there for someone is not just about offering comfort, during times of crisis, but also about showing up consistently, whether it's for small moments of encouragement or simply sharing time together without distractions. In addition, when a partner says, "I feel like you're not there for me," it could be a sign that she feels unseen, unheard, or unimportant. In any relationship, it's essential that both partners feel valued. When emotional availability is lacking, it can lead to a breakdown in communication and trust. It's not just about being there physically, it's about showing that you're actively engaged in the relationship and that you care enough to be emotionally invested. If this kind of emotional neglect continues, the partner who feels unsupported may begin to withdraw, which can lead to a deeper sense of loneliness. This is why it's essential to listen actively and be present, not just in the good times, but also during the tough moments. Ultimately, the message here is clear: relationships require constant nurturing, care, and effort. And if your partner feels like you're not there for her, it means that there's a disconnect that needs to be addressed. It's not just about showing up when things are easy, but also when things are difficult. It's about demonstrating through your actions that you are emotionally available, present, and invested in the relationship. Listening to your partner's feelings, understanding her needs, and showing support can transform a struggling relationship into one that is strong and fulfilling. If you truly care about your partner, it's time to make the changes necessary to ensure she never feels unsupported or neglected again. When she says, "I'm not sure if I see a future with you," it's an expression of doubt that should immediately get your attention. It's one of the most critical things a person can say in a relationship because it reflects a fundamental issue regarding compatibility, trust, and long-term potential. Hearing these words means that something significant is off track in the relationship, and it is time to address it head on. While relationships will naturally go through phases of uncertainty, when someone openly expresses doubts about the future, it indicates a deeper concern that is not being addressed. It's not just about having a disagreement or a temporary moment of frustration. These words signal that the person may be reevaluating the relationship's longevity, and if ignored, the issues could fester and ultimately lead to an irreversible disconnect. The most important thing to recognize when faced with this statement is that it speaks to the broader issue of whether both individuals are on the same page in terms of their future goals, values, and desires. Without shared visions for the future, a relationship can become an uncertain, stressful journey rather than a fulfilling partnership. Your partner might be voicing that she's not certain if you share the same life goals, whether those are related to career, family, or personal aspirations. She may feel like she's outgrowing the relationship or that your paths are diverging. This doesn't necessarily mean that there's no future. That's a wake-up call that something needs to change in order to realign your relationship with both your dreams and hers. At the core of this concern is the idea of security and stability in a relationship. People want to feel that the person they are with is committed to building a future together. When this sense of security is missing, doubt creeps in and the fear of uncertainty becomes overwhelming. The statement, "I'm not sure if I see a future with you," is not an attack on your character or your love. It's a reflection of deep concerns about the direction the relationship is taking. It could signal a lack of trust, a lack of emotional intimacy, or even a fear that things may not work out. When someone says this, it's important not to get defensive, but to view it as an opportunity for deep reflection and honest dialogue about what both of you need moving forward. This moment is often a result of unspoken fears or unaddressed issues that have built up over time. Maybe there have been unresolved conflicts, unmet expectations, or a lack of communication. Over time, these small issues can snowball into something much larger. For example, if their government are problems that you've been ignoring or brushing under the rug, they can start to feel insurmountable. It's not uncommon for one partner to feel like the relationship is stuck, and if that person feels like there's no real progression, they might begin to question its future. If she's wondering about the future, it's likely that she's already been grappling with these feelings for some time, and she's now searching for answers or a sense of reassurance. Another important aspect to consider when someone expresses uncertainty about the future is that they may be assessing their own needs and desires. She might be questioning whether the relationship aligns with what she ultimately wants in life. Sometimes people evolve and their goals or desires shift. What was once a good match may no longer fit as perfectly as it did in the past. In such situations, it's crucial to listen carefully, ask questions, and try to understand what's at the heart of her uncertainty. It's also possible that your partner is still committed to the relationship but feels uncertain about how things will unfold. This is often a result of external pressures like career decisions, family dynamics, or personal growth. The key to moving past this uncertainty is to openly communicate and work together toward understanding each other's needs and priorities. The most destructive thing you can do when faced with this doubt is to ignore it or dismiss it as a passing comment. If she's telling you that she's not sure if she sees a future with you, it's a sign that something is wrong, and it's crucial to address it before it grows into something bigger. You need to take the initiative to have an open, honest conversation. Talk about your future together. Be vulnerable, express your own fears, and ask her to share hers. Ask where she sees herself in the future and how you fit into that vision. Sometimes these conversations can be difficult, but they are necessary for growth, both individually and as a couple. Avoiding them will only push her further away. This is also a time for self-reflection. What does she need from you to feel more secure in the relationship? Is there something that you have neglected? Have you been communicating your plans and desires clearly? Often, people fall into routines where they assume that things are fine because there aren't any immediate problems. However, it's the unspoken concerns that often lead to moments of doubt. Take this as an opportunity to not only listen, but to actively work on making adjustments that demonstrate your commitment to building a future together. In summary, when someone says, "I'm not sure if I see a future with you," it's a call to action. It's an invitation to evaluate where you both are in the relationship and to explore whether you're still aligned in your visions for the future. It's a moment to reconnect, reflect, and ensure that both of you are on the same path. Then the government, it's important to approach this with openness and honesty, addressing the underlying concerns rather than brushing them aside. By doing so, you can either strengthen the relationship or determine if it's time to go in different directions. But the first step is to never ignore the doubt when it's voiced, because only through understanding and effort can you determine whether a future together is still possible. When she says, "I feel like I can't be myself around you," this is one of the most telling and heartbreaking statements a person can make in a relationship. It's a sign that something fundamental is wrong. If she feels like she can't be herself, It indicates a lack of emotional safety and trust in the relationship. The foundation of any meaningful relationship is the ability to be open, honest, and vulnerable with one another. When that foundation is broken, it can create a toxic environment where both individuals are walking on eggshells, unable to express their true feelings or desires. The very essence of a relationship is being able to share the highs and lows, the dreams and fears, without fear of judgment or rejection. If she's telling you that she doesn't feel like she can be her true self around you, it's a sign that the relationship has deviated from this core principle. This feeling may stem from a variety of issues, including a lack of emotional connection, control issues, or even misunderstandings that have built up over time. One possibility is that she may feel judged or criticized for who she is, whether it's her personality, her career choices, her hobbies, or the way she expresses herself. It's common for people to suppress their true selves when they feel that they will be rejected or criticized for being authentic. In relationships where criticism outweighs support, a person can feel like they have to wear a mask to be accepted. This mask can only hold for so long before it begins to erode the connection. It's essential to understand that if she's unable to be herself, it doesn't mean she's inherently flawed. Rather, it reflects the environment in which the relationship exists. You may unknowingly be creating a space where she feels pressured to conform, and when she can't be herself, it creates an emotional wall that's hard to break down. One of the most damaging things that can happen when someone feels like they can't be themselves in a relationship is the loss of intimacy. Intimacy is more than physical closeness. It's about emotional openness. The more she feels like she must hide parts of herself, the more distant and disconnected she will become. If she doesn't feel safe expressing her true self, then the emotional bond between you two will begin to weaken. Over time, the relationship may begin to feel like a series of shallow exchanges rather than a deep and meaningful connection. She may withdraw emotionally, and the distance between you will continue to grow. Without emotional intimacy, a relationship is doomed to feel like two people simply coexisting rather than thriving together. True intimacy requires vulnerability and the willingness to let down your guard. If she feels like she can't be vulnerable, the relationship is at risk. Another reason she might feel this way is a lack of respect for her individuality. Relationships are about mutual respect and support, but sometimes one partner may unintentionally stifle the other's growth or suppress their individuality. If you're constantly trying to change her or pushing her to become someone she's not, she will inevitably feel like she can't be herself. Everyone has unique traits, dreams, and passions that make them who they are. If these qualities are not respected and valued, it can lead to feelings of inadequacy and frustration. It's important to remember that in any healthy relationship, both people need to feel like they can grow individually while also growing together. Trying to mold someone into your vision of who they should be is a surefire way to create tension and resentment. The person she is today may not be perfect, but she deserves to be loved and accepted as she is. If she can't be herself around you, it may be a reflection of a lack of acceptance for who she truly is. If she's telling you that she feels like she can't be herself, it's time for some serious reflection on your part. You need to ask yourself if you're creating a space where she feels comfortable and loved for who she is, not just for who you want her to be. Are you inadvertently judging her? Are you critical of her choices, her appearance, or her personality? If so, it's important to take a step back and examine why this is happening. Then acknowledge that it's not just about her being more open or vulnerable, it's about creating an environment where she feels safe to express herself without fear of judgment or rejection. This will require work on both sides, but the first step is recognizing the issue and being open to change. It's also worth mentioning that if she says she can't be herself around you, it's a signal that communication between you two needs to improve. Healthy relationships are built on honest and open communication. If there are issues she feels she can't talk about, or if she's worried about how you will respond, then it's time to create a new space where both of you can express your true thoughts and feelings without fear of backlash. The key to restoring the relationship is to show her that you value and appreciate her for who she truly is. This means listening without judgment and offering support rather than criticism. If you can establish that kind of trust and emotional safety, the relationship can begin to heal. Then the walls that have been built will slowly come down. In conclusion, when she says she can't be herself around you, it's not just a casual complaint. It's a serious issue that needs to be addressed immediately. It reflects deep emotional concerns about trust, respect, and intimacy in the relationship. If left unchecked, it can lead to emotional distance and dissatisfaction. But by addressing the root causes of why she feels this way, you can create an environment where both of you feel free to be your authentic selves, strengthening the relationship in the process. Understanding her needs and fostering open communication is the first step to restoring the emotional connection and ensuring that both partners feel valued and loved for who they truly are.